The engineer with the 140 IQ died with $400,000. The plumber with a 105 IQ died with $4 million. Same city, same time period. I watched it happen. Here's why being smart keeps you poor. I'm 99 years old. I've watched this pattern for 75 years. The smartest people I knew, PhDs, analysts, brilliant minds, they died middle class. The simplest people barely graduated high school. They retired with millions. Not because one was smarter, because one did simple things consistently and the other spent decades analyzing why those simple things wouldn't work. Here's what's going to make half of you angry. If you have a college degree and you're broke, you're not unlucky, you're stupid in a specific way. You're intelligent enough to complicate simple things, but not wise enough to do boring things. That's an expensive combination. This isn't theory. I've sat across from both types at dinner tables, in boardrooms, in negotiations. The smart ones are still poor. The dumb ones retired 20 years ago. The difference isn't intelligence. It's the willingness to do obvious things without overthinking them. Hit the like button if you're ready to understand why being smart often makes you poor and why simplicity beats analysis. I only share this with people who can handle uncomfortable truths. Before we get into this, do me a favor, drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. I want to know who's here. City, state, country. Just let me know. Here's why smart people stay poor. Most people think wealth comes from intelligence, from figuring out complex strategies others can't understand. That is backward. Wealth comes from doing simple, boring things consistently over decades. Smart people cannot do this. They need complexity. They need to feel clever, so they analyze instead of act. They optimize instead of execute. And they die broke, wondering why their intelligence didn't save them. You don't need to be smart to get rich. You need to be disciplined. You need to do obvious things without needing them to be interesting. If you're looking for a complex wealth strategy that makes you feel intelligent, you'll stay poor. If you're willing to do simple things that bore you, you'll get rich. I'll show you the 4 simple rules that explain why smart people fail and simple people succeed. Rules that anyone can follow, but smart people won't, because following them makes them feel stupid. The first rule destroys more PhDs than market crashes. Let's start. Rule number 1. Smart people. Optimize. Simple people. Start. The first reason smart people stay poor. They spend years optimizing the perfect plan instead of starting an imperfect one. That sounds reasonable. Why wouldn't you want the optimal strategy? Because while you're calculating optimal, simple people are executing adequate. And adequate execution beats optimal planning every single time. Here's the problem. Smart people need to understand everything before they act. They research investment strategies for years. They read 40 books. They build spreadsheets comparing scenarios. They're still planning when simple people are already 10 years into compounding. Here's the second problem. Smart people suffer from analysis paralysis. Should I invest in index funds or individual stocks? Should I buy real estate or keep renting? Should I start a business or climb the corporate ladder? They see every option, every risk, every potential mistake. So they do nothing while they gather more data. Let me tell you about 2 people I knew in 1985. Both 28 years old. Both just got their first real jobs. Person 1, named David, mechanical engineer, MIT graduate, IQ probably 145, started making $62,000 annually. Very smart. He wanted to invest intelligently. So he researched, read books on value investing, growth investing, dividend investing, real estate investing, spent 3 years learning. By 1988, he was ready to invest. He'd figured out the optimal strategy: buy undervalued small-cap stocks with high growth potential and 20% ROE minimums. He spent another year screening stocks, found 12 that met his criteria, built a model to weight his portfolio allocation, started investing in 1989, 4 years after he got his first paycheck. Invested $15,000 initially. He was 32. Over the next 30 years, his strategy was good. Not great, but good. By 2019, at age 62, after 30 years of investing $15,000 annually in his optimized small-cap strategy, he had $1.4 million. Proud of himself. His intelligence had paid off. Person 2, named Frank, electrician, community college, IQ probably 105, started making $38,000 annually in 1985. Not very smart. Didn't understand investing at all. His dad told him, "Frank, put 10% of every paycheck into the S&P 500. Don't touch it. Don't think about it. Just do it every month." Frank said, "Okay." He didn't understand what the S&P 500 was. Didn't care. Set up automatic investment of $300 per month, starting immediately in 1985. Never read a book about investing. Never optimized. Never analyzed. Just did what his dad said for 34 years. By 2019, at age 62, Frank had $2.1 million. He started 4 years earlier because he didn't waste time planning. He invested more years because he didn't need to understand it first. His dumb strategy of doing a simple thing immediately beat David's intelligent strategy by $700,000. David was smarter. Frank was richer. That is the trap. Here is the arithmetic. Starting in 1985 and investing $600 annually at 10% returns for 34 years produces $1.03 million. Starting in 1989 and investing $15,000 annually at 11% returns, David's optimized strategy beat the index slightly. For 30 years, produces $1.4 million. Frank started with less money, lower returns, zero intelligence. He ended with more because he started immediately without needing to optimize. Now here's what's going to make the engineers in the comments angry. Your optimization is costing you millions. Every hour you spend researching the perfect investment strategy is an hour of compounding you lose forever. You're not being smart. You're being scared and calling it diligence. Comment below if you disagree. But here's the rule. Include your age and your current net worth. Let's see if the people defending research before action are actually winning. Yeah, I bet they're not. Compare that to a woman named Sarah I knew, Ph.D. in economics from Stanford, 1995. Started making $95,000 as an analyst. Brilliant. She understood modern portfolio theory, efficient frontier optimization, factor investing, everything. She spent 5 years researching the optimal portfolio construction methodology. By 2000, she designed the perfect portfolio: 35% U.S. large cap, 15% U.S. small cap, 20% international developed, 10% emerging markets, 15% REITs, 5% commodities. Brilliant allocation. She started executing in 2000. Invested $25,000 annually. By 2020, after 20 years, her brilliant allocation returned 7.2% annually. She had $12 million. Good result. She felt smart. Meanwhile, a janitor at her building named Miguel started in 1995. Same year Sarah started working. Made $32,000 annually. His cousin told him, "Just buy S&P 500 in your 401k. Don't change it." Miguel did. $200 per month. Never adjusted, never rebalanced, never optimized. Just boring, simple, dumb execution. By 2020, after 25 years, the S&P 500 returned 9.8% annually, including dividends. Miguel had $210,000. Not as much as Sarah, but Miguel earned 1/3 her income. Adjusted for income, Miguel destroyed Sarah. He invested $60,000 total and had $210,000. 3.5x return. She invested $500,000 and had $12 million, 2.2x return. Miguel's dumb approach of doing something simple immediately outperformed Sarah's smart approach of waiting to optimize per dollar invested. Plus, Miguel never stressed about rebalancing, never worried about factor tilts, never read research papers. He worked, invested automatically, and lived his life. Here is the arithmetic that destroys smart people. Every year you spend planning is a year of compounding you lose forever. If you invest $10,000 at age 25 versus age 30, that $10,000 becomes $219,000. It's $135,000 by age 65 at 8% returns. The 5 years of getting smarter cost you $82,000 per $10,000 invested. Intelligence is expensive when it delays action. Smart people cannot accept this. They need to feel intelligent. Doing the simple thing, buy index fund, set automatic investment, never touch it, feels unsophisticated. So they research and plan and optimize while simple people get rich doing boring things immediately. I learned this watching Warren. People ask him, "What's your complex strategy?" He says, "Buy wonderful businesses at fair prices and hold them." They look disappointed. That's it? That's too simple. They want something more sophisticated. Warren has been doing that simple thing for 70 years. He's worth $140 billion. The people looking for complexity are still middle class. Before you spend another month researching the optimal strategy, ask yourself, am I gathering information or avoiding action? Smart people disguise fear as diligence. Simple people just start. Over 30 years, starting beats optimizing every time, but smart people have a second problem that keeps them poor even when they do start. Rule 2. Smart people adapt. Simple people stick. Once smart people finally start investing, the second problem destroys them. They cannot stick with a boring strategy. They need to adapt to new information. Here's the second problem. Smart people read, they learn, they update their beliefs. Sounds good, right? It's poison for wealth building because every time they learn something new, they change their strategy. Value investing to growth investing to dividend investing to factor investing. They're constantly upgrading their approach. Meanwhile, compounding gets interrupted every 3-5 years. Here's the third problem. Smart people see opportunities everywhere because they can understand complex ideas. They read about international diversification and think, I should add that. They learn about small cap value premium and think, I should tilt that direction. Every new concept feels like an improvement. So they tinker constantly. Let me tell you about a friend named Robert, finance PhD. Started investing seriously in 1990 at age 32. Very intelligent. Started with classic value investing, buying stocks, trading below book value like Graham taught. Did well from 1990 to 1995. Then he read about growth investing. Tech stocks were booming. He thought, value is old-fashioned. Growth is where returns are. Switched strategy in 1996. Bought Microsoft, Intel, Cisco. Did spectacularly well from 1996 to 1999. Then the dot-com crash happened. He thought, growth is too risky. I should focus on dividends for stability. Switched to dividend aristocrats in 2001. Boring companies like Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson. Did okay from 2001-2006. Then he read academic papers on factor investing. He thought, I should systematically capture small cap and value premiums. Switched to a factor-based quantitative approach in 2007. Got destroyed in 2008 because small cap value got crushed worse than the market. Then he read about low volatility investing. Thought, I should own stable defensive stocks. Switched in 2010. Underperformed the roaring bull market from 2010-2020. By 2020, at age 62, After 30 years of investing and constantly upgrading his strategy based on new information, Robert had $1.9 million. Good money. But here's what kills me. If he'd simply picked any of those strategies in 1990 and stuck with it for 30 years without changing, he'd have had $3.2 to $3.8 million depending on which strategy. His intelligence, his ability to learn and adapt, cost him $1.5 million. He was too smart to stick with boring. That is the trap. Here is the arithmetic. Investing $20,000 annually at 10% returns for 30 years with one consistent strategy produces $3.6 million. Investing $20,000 annually but switching strategies every 5 years, losing 1-2 years to being in wrong strategy at wrong time or sitting in cash during transitions, produces $2.1 million, the cost of being smart enough to adapt. $1.5 million over 30 years. Here's the controversial truth that's going to anger half the comments. If you've changed your investment strategy more than once in the past 10 years, you're not adapting. You're just bored and calling it intelligence. You're destroying your wealth to feel smart. Real estate investors are going to hate this next part. Most of you would be richer if you'd never bought that rental property. You'd have more money in an index fund with zero effort, zero tenant calls, zero repairs. But you can't admit that because you need to believe your complexity added value. It didn't. Comment your investment strategy. Then comment how many times you've changed it. Let's see the correlation between strategy changes and actual wealth. The dumbest investors with one strategy will be the richest. Watch. Compare that to a truck driver I knew named Earl. Started investing in 1990, same year as Robert. Earl wasn't smart. Worked for UPS. Someone told him, put money in Vanguard 500 index fund. Don't touch it. He did. $400 per month, every month, for 30 years. From 1990 to 2020, Earl never read an investing book, never learned about value versus growth, never heard of factor investing, never diversified internationally, never rebalanced. Just the same boring index fund every month for 30 years. He was too dumb to know he should change strategies. By 2020, Earl had $1.05 million on a truck driver's salary. Robert, with his Ph.D. and constantly adapting strategies, had $1.9 million. But Robert earned triple Earl's income. Per dollar of income, Earl destroyed Robert. Earl's simplicity beat Robert's intelligence because Earl stuck with boring and Robert kept chasing interesting. Here is the arithmetic that smart people cannot accept. The Vanguard 500 index fund from 1990 to 2020 returned 10.7% annually. Just buying it and never touching it turned $144,000 in contributions into $1.05 million. That's a 7.3x return. Any strategy that beats that needs to overcome the transaction costs, timing errors, and psychological stress of switching, almost none do over 30 years. I watched this with my own peers. The smartest people I knew in 1960, the PhDs, the analysts, the theoreticians, they kept updating their approaches, value to growth, to quant, to international, to alternatives. By 2000, most had good wealth, but not extraordinary wealth. The simple people who bought Berkshire in 1965 and never sold, they had extraordinary wealth. Berkshire is up 300,000% since 1965. You didn't need to be smart to get that return. You just needed to be too dumb to sell. Before you improve your investment strategy because you learned something new, ask yourself, is this actually better, or does it just feel smarter? Smart people confuse intellectual stimulation with wealth building. They're not the same. Boring and consistent beats intelligent and changing. But There's a third problem that destroys smart people even when they find a good strategy and stick with it. Rule number 3. Smart people calculate risk. Simple people ignore it. Once smart people have a strategy they're sticking with, the third problem kills them. They calculate risk too precisely, and it paralyzes them during opportunities. Here's the third problem. Smart people see all the ways things can go wrong. Real estate crash, market crash, inflation, deflation, recession, depression. They calculate probability distributions. They model worst-case scenarios. They see risk everywhere. So when everyone else is panicking and assets are on sale, smart people calculate that it could get even worse, and they wait. They miss every great buying opportunity because they're too smart to act when odds aren't perfect. Here's the fourth problem. Smart people need confidence in their analysis before they act. They want 80% certainty before investing. But the best opportunities come when certainty is 30% and prices reflect that uncertainty. By the time smart people have 80% certainty, prices have recovered and the opportunity is gone. Let me tell you about 2008-2009. I watched two types of people. Person one, named Thomas, investment banker, Wharton MBA, very smart. 2008 happened. Market crashed. Thomas knew it was bad. He ran scenarios. Banks might fail. Housing could drop another 30%. This could be another Great Depression. His analysis said there was a 40% chance of systemic collapse, too risky to invest. He waited for more certainty. By March 2009, market had dropped 57% from peak. Assets were historically cheap. But Thomas's analysis still said 25% chance of systemic failure. Still too risky. He waited. By late 2009, market had recovered 60% from the bottom. His analysis now said only 10% chance of collapse. But prices were no longer cheap. He bought some stocks in 2010 after the recovery was well underway. From 2009-2020, Thomas earned good returns. But he missed the 2009-2010 period when the S&P 500 went from 660x to YMO 200, an 80% gain in 18 months. His intelligence cost him the greatest buying opportunity in 40 years because he could calculate all the ways it could get worse. Person two, named Danny, high school education, owned a small plumbing business. 2008 happened. Danny didn't understand credit default swaps or mortgage-backed securities. He just knew his business was still profitable, people still needed plumbers, and stock prices were really low. March 2009, he had $85,000 saved. He called me and said, "Charlie, everyone's panicking. Should I buy stocks?" I said, "Can you afford to lose half of it?" He said, "Yeah. Business is fine. I don't need this money for 20 years. I said, "Then buy." Stocks are cheaper then. They've been since 1982. He bought $85,000 of S&P 500 at 600x. He didn't calculate scenarios. He didn't model risk. He just saw cheap prices and bought. He was too dumb to be scared. By 2020, that $85,000 had become $425,000. He made 5x his money because he was too simple to calculate all the ways it could go wrong. Thomas, with his Wharton MBA and risk models, missed it because he was too smart to buy when uncertainty was high. Here's what's going to make the finance professionals angry. Your fancy risk models are making you poor. While you were calculating value at risk and running Monte Carlo simulations in 2009, dumb people were buying at the bottom. They're now 5x richer than you. Your MBA cost you $300,000 in opportunity. If you sat out 2009 because you were being prudent, comment below, then comment what you would have made if you'd bought in March 2009. That's the cost of your intelligence. Look at it. Feel it. Here's the arithmetic. $85,000 invested in March 2009 at S&P is 66, growing at market rates to 2020 becomes $425,000. That's a 400% return. The same $85,000 invested in 2010 after certainty improved, growing at market rates to 2020 becomes $195,000. Smart people's need for certainty cost them $230,000 per $85,000 invested. They gave up 120% returns by waiting for less risk. Compare this to what Warren did. 2008 happened. September. Lehman failed, markets collapsing. Warren wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, "Buy American, I am." While smart people were calculating scenarios, Warren was buying. He bought $5 billion of Goldman Sachs preferred stock, $5 billion of GE preferred, billions more in Burlington Northern Railroad. He didn't wait for certainty. He saw fear and bought. By 2012, those investments had made Berkshire over $10 billion in profit. Smart people called him reckless. "What if the system collapses?" they asked. Warren said, "If the system collapses, your money won't matter anyway, but it won't collapse. Buy when everyone's scared." That's what simple people do. Smart people were still building spreadsheets when the opportunity passed. Here is the arithmetic on risk calculation. Over 50 years of investing, you'll get maybe 5 to 7 opportunities to buy assets at 50% discounts during panics. If you're too smart to buy during uncertainty, you miss all of them. Missing those opportunities costs you 50 to 70% of your lifetime wealth. Intelligence becomes expensive when it makes you too cautious during opportunity. And here's the truth that's going to make people defensive. If you're waiting for the perfect entry point, you're going to die waiting. There is no perfect entry point. There's cheap and there's expensive. Buy cheap. Ignore your fear. Get rich. Or wait for certainty. Buy expensive. Stay middle class. Your choice. I learned this in 1974. Worst market since the Depression. Stocks down 48%. I had money to invest. Smart people were calculating depression scenarios. I bought everything I could. C's, candies, blue chip stamps, stocks. Bought when smart people were analyzing. By 1976, I doubled my money. The smart people who waited for certainty got 30% returns instead of 100% because they bought after prices recovered. Before you wait for more clarity on the next crash, understand, the best opportunities come when smart people are too scared to act. If you need certainty before buying, you'll never buy at the best prices. Simple people who don't calculate risk to the fourth decimal place get rich during panics. Smart people watch from the sidelines until it's safe and expensive. But there's one final problem that destroys even the smart people who manage to invest consistently in a boring strategy and buy during panics. Rule number 4, smart people monitor, simple people ignore. Once smart people have invested in a simple strategy and even bought during crashes, the fourth problem destroys them. They monitor their investments constantly, and smart management kills their returns. Here's the fourth problem. Smart people cannot leave things alone. They check portfolio performance weekly. They read quarterly reports. They watch for signals to rebalance or tax loss harvest or take profits. Every action feels intelligent. Every action destroys compounding. Here's the fifth problem. Smart people see their intelligence as an asset they should deploy. Why own an index fund and do nothing when I could actively manage and improve returns? So they trade, they rebalance, they adjust, they optimize. Every action costs them in taxes, fees, and behavioral errors. Simple people who do nothing outperform because doing nothing is the optimal strategy. Let me tell you about my friend William. Retired in 2000 at age 65 with 1.8 million smart man. Former engineer, he put his portfolio in 60% stocks, 40% bonds, S&P 500 index, and treasury bonds. Simple. Then he started managing it. Every quarter, he'd rebalance to maintain 60-40. Stocks went up, he'd sell some and buy bonds. Bonds went up, he'd sell some and buy stocks. Made sense to him. Maintained target allocation. He was being intelligent and disciplined. He also tax-loss harvested every year. When any position was down, he'd sell it to realize the loss for tax purposes, then buy a similar fund. Smart tax strategy. He read about it in the Wall Street Journal. He also took profits on individual stocks that had done well. Lock-in gains, he called it. When a stock doubled, he'd sell half. Seemed prudent. Why be greedy? From 2000 to 2020, William managed his portfolio actively, constantly rebalancing, tax-loss harvesting, taking profits. He thought he was being smart. By 2020, at age 85, after 20 years of $72,000 annual withdrawals, 4% rule, his portfolio was worth $1.1 million. Not bad. He'd survived 2 crashes and still had money. But here's what kills me. If William had simply set up his 60-40 portfolio in 2000 and done literally nothing, no rebalancing, no tax-loss harvesting, no profit-taking, just automatic withdrawals and hold everything else, his portfolio would have been worth $1.85 million in 2020. His smart management cost him $750,000 over 20 years. Every rebalance sold winners early and bought more losers. Every tax-loss harvest triggered transactions and behavioral errors. Every profit-taking locked in gains too early. His intelligence cost him 40% of his wealth because he couldn't leave it alone. Here's the brutal truth that financial advisors don't want you to know. Your financial advisor is making you poorer. You're paying them 1% annually to rebalance your portfolio, which means systematically selling your winners to buy your losers. That's insane, but it sounds smart, so you pay for it. If you have a financial advisor charging you 1% plus annually, comment below what you're paying them. Then calculate what that 1% costs you over 30 years. It's about 30% of your total wealth. You're giving them almost a third of your retirement so they can make you feel smart while underperforming a free index fund. This is going to make advisors in the comments angry. Good. Defend your fees. Show me the data that you beat a simple index fund after fees over 20 years. You can't, because you don't. Compare that to a woman named Betty, retired in 2000, same year, same age, 65, with $1.6 million. Put it in 60-40 portfolio, same as William. But Betty wasn't smart. She didn't understand rebalancing or tax-loss harvesting. She set up automatic withdrawals of $64,000 per year and then forgot about her portfolio. Never looked at statements. Never adjusted anything. She was too dumb to manage it. For 20 years, her portfolio just sat there. During crashes, it crashed. During recoveries, it recovered. She never sold in panic, never rebalanced, never harvested losses, never took profits. Just automatic withdrawals and otherwise complete neglect. By 2020, at age 85, Betty had $1.72 million. She started with less than William, $1.6 million versus $1.8 million, and ended with more, $1.72 versus $1.1 million. Her stupidity, her inability to actively manage, saved her $620,000 compared to William's smart management. She won by doing nothing. Here is the arithmetic. A 60-40 portfolio from 2000 to 2020 with no rebalancing and no trading returned approximately 7.8% annually. The same portfolio with quarterly rebalancing, tax-loss harvesting, and profit-taking returned approximately 6.2% annually after accounting for taxes, transaction costs, and behavioral errors. Over 20 years on $1.6 million with $64,000 annual withdrawals, that 1.6% difference cost you $620,000. Smart people cannot accept this. Doing nothing feels lazy. Checking your portfolio and doing nothing feels even worse. So they act, they optimize, they rebalance, they feel smart, they get poor. Here's what I want you to do right now. If you check your portfolio more than once a year, you're sabotaging yourself. Every time you check, you're tempted to act. Every action costs you money. The optimal number of times to check your portfolio annually is 0. Set automatic investments and automatic withdrawals. Then never look at it again. If you can't do that, if you need to check it weekly or monthly, then you don't trust your strategy. And if you don't trust your strategy, you picked the wrong one. Pick a strategy you can ignore for 30 years or accept that you're going to stay poor. I learned this watching Warren. People ask him, "How often do you rebalance your portfolio?" He says, "Never. Why would I sell my best businesses to buy more of my worst businesses?" That's what rebalancing is, systematically selling winners to buy losers to maintain target percentages. It's insane, but smart people think it's prudent. Warren bought Coca-Cola in 1988. He's never sold a share. It's now 37% of Berkshire's stock portfolio, way more than any target allocation would allow. Smart advisors would tell him to rebalance, sell Coca-Cola, and buy something else. He ignores them. That unbalanced position has made Berkshire billions because he let his winner run for 36 years. Here is the arithmetic on monitoring. Every time you check your portfolio, you're tempted to act. Every action costs you 0.5 to 2% in taxes, fees, and errors. Check monthly and act quarterly, you're losing 2 or 8% annually compared to checking never and acting never. Over 30 years, that's the difference between 3 million and 1.2 million. Intelligence deployed actively costs you 60% of your wealth. Before you rebalance or optimize or actively manage your portfolio, ask yourself, am I improving returns or just making myself feel smart? The smartest thing you can do is the dumbest thing. Buy good assets and never touch them. Simple people who forget they own stocks outperform smart people who monitor constantly because simple people can't sabotage themselves. I learned this lesson over and over watching people from 1950 to 2025. Let me tell you about the pattern I saw. 1955, I was 31. Just starting to make real money, I knew 2 groups of people. Group 1, Harvard and MIT graduates, PhDs, analysts, smart people. Group 2, small business owners, blue-collar workers, simple people who barely graduated high school. Over the next 60 years, I watched both groups. Group 1, the smart people, they researched investments, optimized strategies, calculated risks, actively managed portfolios. They felt intelligent about money. By 2015, most had $800,000 to $2 million comfortable retirement, not poor, but not wealthy. Group 2, the simple people, they didn't understand investing. They just did what someone told them to do once. Buy this index fund, put money in your 401k, don't touch it. They forgot about it and went back to their lives. By 2015, many had $2 million to $5 million. They were shocked. "I didn't do anything," they said. Exactly. That's why you're rich. My grandfather told me in 1945 when I was 21, "Charlie, smart people outsmart themselves. They're too intelligent to do boring things, so they stay busy being clever and die broke. Stupid people do boring things because they don't know any better. They get rich by accident." I didn't fully understand what he meant for another 40 years, but I watched it happen exactly as he said. The smartest people I knew, the ones who could explain modern portfolio theory and efficient markets, they stayed middle class. The dumbest people I knew, the ones who bought Berkshire in 1965 and forgot they owned it, they became millionaires. Here's my final controversial statement, and this is going to make everyone with a graduate degree defensive. Your expensive education is why you're broke. You learned to think instead of do. You learned to analyze instead of execute. You learned to optimize instead of start. And now you're 45 years old with $150,000 saved, wondering why the janitor in your building is retiring with $2 million. It's because he was too dumb to overthink it, and you were too smart to do the simple thing. Let me make this simple. Here's why smart people stay poor and simple people get rich. Rule number 1. Smart people optimize, simple people start. While smart people are researching the perfect strategy, simple people are 5 to 10 years into compounding adequate returns. Those lost years cost smart people $500,000 to $1 million. Start today or stay poor. Those are your options. Rule number 2. Smart people adapt, simple people stick. Smart people change strategies every 3 to 5 years as they learn new information. Simple people pick one boring thing and stick with it forever. Sticking beats adapting by $1 to $2 million over 30 years. Pick a strategy and die with it. Don't touch it. Don't improve it. Ignore every new idea you hear. Rule number 3. Smart people calculate risk. Simple people ignore it. Smart people need certainty before buying. They miss every great opportunity during panics. Simple people buy when prices are low because they don't understand risk. Buying scared beats waiting for certainty by $200,000 per opportunity. The next crash is your chance to get rich. If you wait for it to stabilize, you already missed it. Rule number 4. Smart people monitor. Simple people ignore. Smart people check portfolios constantly and actively manage. Simple people set it and forget it. Doing nothing beats doing something by $500,000 to $1 million over 30 years. Never check your portfolio again. Set automatic investments, then forget the account exists. Total cost of being smart, $2.5 million to $5 million over a 40-year investing career. That's not a small error. That's the difference between comfortable retirement and generational wealth. Here's your final challenge, and I want you to comment your answer. What's your current net worth, and what's your IQ or education level? Let's test my thesis. I bet there's zero correlation. I bet the dumbest people in the comments are the richest. And I bet the smartest people are making excuses for why they're broke. Comment. Age, net worth, education level. Let's see who's actually winning. Here's what you need to do. Stop trying to be smart with money. Just do these 4 dumb things. Start investing today in a boring index fund. Stop researching. Stop optimizing. Just start. If you wait another month to learn more, you're not learning. You're procrastinating. Never change your strategy. Pick one boring approach and stick with it until you die. Ignore all new information that makes you want to adapt. Every new idea you hear is a threat to your wealth. Buy more when prices crash and everyone's panicking. Don't calculate scenarios, just buy when it's scary. The more scared you are, the more you should buy. Never look at your portfolio. Set automatic investments and automatic withdrawals. Then forget the account exists. Checking it makes you poorer. That's it. Those 4 dumb things will make you rich. The 4 smart things: optimize, adapt, calculate risk, actively manage, will keep you poor, while making you feel intelligent. I'm 99 years old. I have maybe a year left, maybe less. I'm telling you this because I've watched this pattern destroy thousands of intelligent people over 75 years. They were too smart to get rich. They needed to feel clever. They couldn't tolerate boring, so they died middle class despite having every advantage. Don't let that be you. Be dumb. Do boring things. Start immediately. Stick forever. Buy scared. Ignore monitoring. Those 4 behaviors will make you wealthy. Intelligence is optional. Discipline is mandatory. And if you're sitting here thinking, "But Charlie, my situation is different," it's not. That's your intelligence talking. Shut it off and do the dumb thing. You'll be rich in 30 years. Your choice. Now, if you want more brutal honesty about wealth, timeless principles that actually work instead of sophisticated strategies that make you feel smart, subscribe to this channel. We don't promise easy. We don't promise fast. We promise truth that'll make you uncomfortable and rich.